Chapter's, what is it called? The life of, can you read it for me? Kindness. Living with kindness. The book, I mean, I said this the other week, you could study the first 3 pages. It's enough for the spiritual life. It's the 4 Noble Truths, so well described in very ordinary words, and metta, very simply described, but well, you know, so there we go. So, the Karaniya Metta Sutta. Is this in my head? A month or so ago, our chapter, that order members who meet every week, there's about 8 of us, we had the idea, it was Arya Bandhu, how do we, I'll put it in my words, mature? How do we grow up? And I do remember once, you know, my Buddhist centre in Croydon, it turned into a cult. There's no other word for it, you know? And as it all broke up and came to an end, Sangharakshita said to me, a bit with some annoyance, it's time you grew up, you know? So, and I think the cult does hold you in a state of immaturity, you know? You can't develop in a cult. So, growing up, becoming mature. And what I've noticed, I think this is true, that most of us, well, Sangharakshita, he says, intellectually, we all have enough to get enlightened. It's there. That doesn't need to develop anymore at all. But emotionally, the world, I hope this is not too controversial, is full of children, you know? You're working at the university. Why does your professor have the emotions of a child? You know, why is he competitive, egotistical, you know, proud, you know, rude? Yeah. That some people can be brilliant, but their emotions have not yet grown up. Yeah. Typical Lalitaratna. I've gone straight off my text. So we were looking at how do you grow up? And I don't know where it came from. It just popped into my head. That the Karaniya Metta Sutta has a list of 15 qualities to which we should aspire. And when you look at these qualities, if you could develop them, well, the text actually says you'll be on the edge of enlightenment. It says you will not be reborn again. That's very, very spiritually developed. It doesn't say you're enlightened, yeah? But we have these categories of development in the old traditional Buddhism. You become a stream entrant, you know, you're irreversibly on the path, yeah? Which Sangharakshita says, all of us are capable of this lifetime. We can become stream entrants. Then there's somebody who will get reborn one more time, yeah? A once returner. That's very developed, that's astonishing. Then there's somebody who will not be reborn again. They're not enlightened, but my goodness me, they're not coming back here again. There's like a special place they go to, and from that they get enlightened. And then there's the arahats, so 4 levels of development. So there's... So this text is showing us what qualities we need to develop to become a non-returner, yeah, on the edge of enlightenment. So, very good text for how do we grow up, how do we mature. Good. And that's why, page number 3, sorry. That wasn't there. I couldn't work out why I wasn't following it. All right, back to page 1. Good. Oh, this makes more sense, yeah? Now, there are 2 sort of main types of Buddhist teaching, yeah? And I've just mentioned one, you know, showing these 4 stages on the way to becoming enlightened. It's like, it's showing the stages of development, okay? It's like a map. So, yeah, it's very much like a map. And you know how to use a map. Yeah, you want to get to Yorkstrasse. Okay, you get your map. Yes, I just go down to Southampton. Yeah, then the next stop was that Gneisenaustrasse, and then Yorkstrasse. Bang, it's easy. Yeah, but a map on its own is useless. It's a piece of paper. Yeah, We need to actually have a way of using the map, getting there, going there. And these are the other ways of that the spiritual path can present itself as the methods of doing it. Yeah, one is showing you the stages, you know, all these railway stations, and the next is showing you a big U-Bahn train. Get in there and go. Yeah, or to put it more simply, you can see that one lot of teachings are the map, that's in your left hand, and the other is a bicycle, that's in your right hand. And the bicycle is the Metabolism, the mindfulness of breathing, your reflections on the nature of existence. You know, well, it's all impermanent, it's a bit disappointing sometimes, you know. You sort of reflect on these, this is all part of the path, and your development of friendship and ethics. You know? So these are the things you do. And so your map in this hand, this is where we're going. Your bike in this hand, I'm going to do it with this, and you have a great likelihood of spiritual success, yeah, with these two things, yeah, the map and the method. Fantastic. So today's text is more about the map. Good. Now, this text, Karaniya Metta Sutta, it comes from the Pali Canon. So I will say a few words about the Pali Canon. It's an old Theravadan text. They're the oldest teachings we've got. Pali Canon. That's Latin, isn't it? The word canon, yeah? So obviously the Buddhists didn't use the word Pali Canon in those days, yeah? The Latin wasn't there. Sorry, I didn't have the Latin. But canon means a whole list of spiritual teachings, practices. Pali was the language it was in. So Pali was an artificial language created to present the Buddha's teachings, very similar to the language at the time, but like a school language, like Church Latin. Yeah. So there we go. So there's the Pali Canon. It came now, but they call it the Tipitaka. Tipitaka, and T means three, and Pitaka means a basket. So it's the three baskets. This is the Pali Canon. It's the three baskets. Now these baskets, if you see them in India, they're quite rough, quite tough. You see the building sites. You've got these builders with these baskets, and they're sort of a bit pointy at the bottom, and they're woven from straw, and they're tough. And they fill them with cement, and they hurl them to the next builder who's up on the top of the wall. He catches it, throws it to somebody who's on the roof, and he catches it. And so you can do it with cement, with earth, very effective, very fast, human chain, blah, 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 blah. You can use them in shops. So you get this feeling with the Tripitaka of handing on the basket of teaching. It's got that flavor of handing on, right? And there's three of them, the Tripitaka. So you have, and here come the big names. That's why I sent it out on the text, yeah? The Vinaya Pitaka, the Sutta Pitaka, and the Abhidharma Pitaka, right? These are the three baskets, right? The Vinaya, all the rules. Basically, monks and nuns, they made mistakes. And the Buddha heard about it. He goes, from now on, this is a rule, yes? And normally, Buddhism doesn't have rules, right? It's very freiwillig, it's voluntary, yes? It's your choice, yeah? But when you're setting up an order, you need to organize it a bit, and you do need rules, yeah? I mean, you get chucked out of the order and still be a Buddhist and still practice, but you're not in the order anymore. And I was reading this week, okay, so there's some obvious big ones, like to murder somebody, you're thrown out of the order. That's pretty clear, isn't it, yeah? But I found these minor offenses, and one of them made me laugh, that a monk, when he has a pee, is not allowed to stand up, yeah? So from this, you realize that the Buddha was not British, yeah? It's almost evidence, yeah? So if I sit some things, you call it, yeah. So there we go. So anyway, it's not a great offence, but obviously, I mean, you can see the practicalities. How do you stand up with all those robes? So there we go, yeah. So that amused me. And there's about 150 rules they have, and they confess them if they get them wrong. But just on this thing about no rules in Buddhism, I just want to put out one idea, because this text, yes, we're coming to it, it's called the Karaniya Metta Sutta. So there's a number of Metta Suttas, you know, suttas about loving kindness, yeah? But this one's the Karaniya Metta Sutta, and Karaniya translates as, this must be done. So it's like, or in this version, this should be done, the one I gave you, yeah? So it's, and Sangha actually calls this an existential imperative. You know? You see the baby out crawling in the garden, it falls into the duck pond. You don't go, well, it's responsibility, you know, we'll see if it can swim or not, you know. If that baby drowns, you go to prison. I don't care, you know, yeah? That was the existential imperative was you pulled it out of the water, yeah? There are certain things, if you're a half-decent person, you have to do them. And this text is saying, if you want, you know, to develop, then really it's a must, yeah? There's no law, there's no God, you know, but just, it's an existential imperative like emperor, you know, it's a command. So love that, you know. So back to these three baskets. So you have the Vinaya, all these rules, and they came about through people getting it wrong and the Buddha coming up with a teaching, you know, a rule. Then you get, I'll say the Sutta next, which is what I'm interested in, the Sutta Pitaka. Sutta Pitaka, the basket, yeah, again, Pitaka. And Sutta literally means thread or even sewing. You go back far enough, it means sewing. And that's right back in Sanskrit. What I found interesting that in the West we have, if you have an operation, the doctor afterwards, he sews you up with sutures. And it's almost the same word, yeah? It's fascinating. But this one came down from Greek. Our word came down from Greek, and their word. So obviously the word was way back. They both mean to sew, suture and sutta. So it's a thread with all these little beads on it, and these are all the teachings. So that's a sutta. It's a thread of beads, you know, of stories from the life of the Buddha. And the Sutta Pitaka, basically, it was all memorized by Ananda, the beloved, lovely Ananda. Ananda was the Buddha's cousin and his, I love to say, personal assistant. The Buddha had a PA, you know. If you wanted to meet the Buddha, you had a chat with Ananda and he fixed the time and place, you know. So, and if you're a Buddha, you need a personal assistant, you know, and Ananda had, you know, he was the best. But it was interesting, when the Buddha asked Ananda to do it, Ananda said, I've got a few conditions, all right? One, no special gifts, yeah? If you get special gifts because you're the Buddha, I don't want any. That's lovely, isn't it? You know, that's your stuff. He said, and if ever I miss an event, I'm not there, when I meet you afterwards, you repeat it all back to me. And he memorized everything. He had an amazing memory. And 30 years after the Buddha's death, this Mahakashapa said, come on, let's record the lot. And Ananda recited all of these stories and the monks memorized them. Yeah. And from what I gather, these stories were in forms of songs or like poems, which are much easier to remember. You know, you go to a folk club, you think, how do they know all this? You know, it's a tune, it rhymes. And to give an example, I'm throwing it in. My grandfather in Ireland, when he was dying, yeah, he said one day, he said, I recited 47 poems today, he said to his son, yeah, one of his sons. So they did have playlists even then, 60 years ago. You know, he had all his poems all memorized. And he even memorized poems like The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. And that takes 30 minutes to recite. Yeah, but many people had these abilities, you know, and he did. So that's in my living memory. You know, I remember him. Yeah, and so you can imagine the possibility with Ananda. So there we go. So the rules, they were remembered by all the monks, about 150 rules. They all knew them. They recited them every month when they came together. Yeah, but all the stories, the suttas, Ananda recorded that, and that was learned. Very good. And that's where we find the Karaniya Metta Sutta. And that's why it is almost like a sort of a poem. And lastly, I mentioned the Abhidharma, which I know very little about. It's the analysis of the suttas. Yeah, it's the analysis, the studying of them. It's the analysis of the mind, you know, all, you know, the 180 aspects to the mind, you know, whatever. All study, possibly a brilliant text. It's not my area, the Abhidharma. Okay, Abhi, I looked up, means to go beyond, and Dharma, the teaching. So the extra ones, yeah, beyond the teachings. Good, lovely. Just looking at me there. Lose a bit more. Yeah. So good. Finally back to page 3. Good. All right. So that is the Karaniya Metta Sutta. We've now met its title and looked at what it means. Yeah. I haven't said much about metta. We've all done that today. Metta, this kindly emotion we can bring into being, we can cultivate. Yes, it's not accidental, which gives us amazing freedom. You know, I could give you some horror stories here. One of the milder ones. I just remember a young mother. She had a second baby, and she just fell in love with the second baby. And the first one, it turned white with blue lips. It was so upset because it was forgotten, you know. And the mother was rattling things. But here you are, look, play with this. And this little baby, it was in Ireland. Little baby said to me, "Beat baby, beat baby." And I was going, no. She wanted me to beat up the new baby, yeah. And I looked at this mother who was a trained psychologist, a psychiatrist, and a doctor, and she had no power over her emotions. Yeah, she couldn't. Yeah, and with the Metabolism, we can change how we respond. It doesn't happen overnight. We train ourselves. We get better and better at it. That's the meta. Yeah, it's better with meta. Great. Sorry. It's not going to be over. There we go. All right. So very good. So this text, just an analysis of the text, you know. It falls into a number of categories. We've met this sort of imperative at the beginning. This must be done, yeah, if you want to attain nirvana. Then it's going to go through the qualities that need to be developed. We're going to look at that in a minute. Then it's going to look at just a positive wish that we're going to cultivate for all beings, you know, the little ones, the tall ones, everyone, yeah? It will ask us to avoid negative acts. Then there's this great metaphor right in the middle about it's like a mother's love. Yes, it's a metaphor, yeah? And then it just says how far our metta will go in space, literally, can go in time, it's mentioned that. Then it will say about how we will develop it at all times of day. And then if we are careful to avoid some of the distractions of life, then enlightenment is guaranteed. All right? So that's the summary of the text. So let's have a quick look. So the list of these things, these qualities that we should be developing, yeah? So we'll go through them. I sent them to you, but let's have a quick look. So it says we should be able. So it's very good if you're a capable person. This is ordinary. This is not clever. You know, you're actually able to find the Buddhist center. You can get on the right bus. Fantastic. You know, yeah. Not everybody can do that. Our Buddhist community once, somebody said, "Can I go home early?" And we said, you know, we were working in the restaurant. No, it means we all have to work late. But he said, it's a special occasion, you know, I need to go home early. So we said to this fellow, all right, you go. Yeah. So he left early. He got home the same time as us, 4 hours later. He got lost. He's going home. He got lost going home. Isn't that fantastic? Yeah. So not everybody is just capable. Yeah. So upright is the next quality. This just seems like good manners. You're a decent person, and your posture will show it. I mean, I've done work in prisons, and there can be a sort of a shifty sort of atmosphere, you know. I used to say to my Buddhist group in the prison, there's a criminal element here. I I'm sure, you know. 160 murderers there, you know. But yeah, but it does come out in the body language, you know. So yeah. So upright. It's a lovely word. Same in German. Aufgerichtet. Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah. Oh, is it Aufrichtig? Aufrichtig. Danke. Yeah. So then it goes on. It says perfectly upright. So I've been looking this up, and what they mean is you're not just upright. You're upright all the time. You maintain your ethical stance all the time. Yeah. And I have to recommend a book here. It's called, I recommended it the other week, To Kill a Mockingbird. And who's read it? Any hands? Half the room, fantastic. I go back to it every sort of 8 or 10 years and I laugh and cry throughout the whole book. And you meet Atticus, who is ethical. He's a lawyer. He's the widowed father of 2 young children, and he is ethical. And it's lovely. It's lovely. He's so modest. He's so kind, you know, so good, so brave. Yeah. And I was looking up To Kill a Mockingbird, and it says, the British Librarians Association recommend this book above all other books in the world. That's not bad. And the German name, was it Die Nachtigall singt or something? Yeah, I don't know, but it's in German. All right, good. The next one says of noble speech. This is not very good, of noble speech. I looked up some other texts, and they've got much more interesting meaning. They're saying you can be easy, not only is your speech good and kind, but you can be criticized. There's some atmosphere off you that people are allowed to correct you, and it's not a big deal for you. Yeah? I read this woman's article, what was her name? Maitreyi. I shouldn't have read it, she said. It was in a women's magazine, yeah, Buddhist women's magazine. I found it, I read it, it's great. And there she described my mother, yeah? My mother had 2 sentences. Who the hell do you think you are? Or, who the hell do I think I am? And she would like, yeah? And there was no middle ground, yeah? You need a sort of an average confidence to be able to take criticism, not collapse and not attack. Sorry, Mum. Anyway. She's been 4 years dead, but I think she's still around. Anyway, there we go. But I never told her that. But anyway, but I found this quite interesting. And there's an actual sutta where this monk gets into such trouble that he goes to the Buddha. He says he's got it wrong for such a long time. And he goes to the Buddha. He says, nobody corrected me. And the Buddha said, well, they wouldn't. You're frightening. Yeah. He terrifies people, so nobody corrects him. Yeah. But some people have another method. There's a sort of an atmosphere about them, which is like, please don't ever criticize me. And you can't put your hand on it. But there's this atmosphere, like a perfume, you just can't go in there. And we always need to invite people to point things out. And when they're right, say, thank you, that was helpful. Or it wasn't helpful, you know? Yeah, we're not fools. Yeah? So it says, and gentle, so our speech is gentle. And they really praise having a good voice. If you're going to spread the Dharma, I want to stand like that all the time, you know. You want something which is pleasing to the ear, you know. I was a school teacher, and some teachers use their voice as an instrument of torture. They find this nerve in the middle of kids' heads and torture it. You know, so a pleasant voice. You know? So there we go. It's sorry. The next one says humble. Don't like the word humble. Don't like the word humble. We have Charles Dickens, a writer in England, and he has a character called Uriah Heep. There was a band called Uriah Heep, yeah? And Uriah Heep is so humble, just so humble, sir, just so humble, I'm just humble, you know, bescheiden, yeah, like just so humble. And actual fact, he's a monster. And he slowly, quietly takes control of everything and then takes over the company all through being humble, you know? And it's not a very nice word. I was looking around. I mean, modesty is a nice word, but just not being arrogant. So that's what we're looking for, this lack of arrogance. And sorry, I'm going to go on a little bit further. A dear friend of mine, order member, died a few years ago. He knew he was really arrogant, yeah? And when we had the Sherlock series on television, he suddenly developed Sherlock Holmes's voice when he was talking to me, the idiot Watson, yeah? And if I found flaws in his argument, he'd go crazy, he'd throw the phone down, yeah? But I realized arrogance is interesting, and he made me think about arrogance. You know, you might, and in a way, he was the best. Intellectually, he was brilliant. So how could you say you're not brilliant? He was. So it's not that you're very talented. It's not that you're better than others. That's not arrogance. And this is my new one. I thought, arrogance is when you don't see the qualities of others. You have no valuing, you know, that they may be amazing meditators, amazing at bringing peace, you know, and resolution between others. They have powerful emotions, strong, loads of love. But the arrogant intellectual doesn't see any of that, and they're just a genius, you know. And so arrogance, I thought, that's a better definition, not seeing the qualities of others. Yeah? So there we go. And Banti, he had, if you read the Rainbow Road, we're all right. If you read the Rainbow Road, he meets somebody called the One-Eyed Guru. And I tell you, the Rainbow Road, it's a big book, so you can just go straight to the One-Eyed Guru and read this passage, yeah? You can do that with this book, just pick out bits. And the One-Eyed Guru, Banti hears about this fella. His disciples come round to visit Banti. Banti is our teacher, Sangharakshita. And his disciples are falling on the floor worshipping Sangharakshita, which is a bit difficult for Banti. Okay, all right, they're all worshipping him, yeah? And they say, we're the disciples of the One-Eyed Guru. So Banti goes to visit this fellow who worships Banti, you know? And Banti asks him about, I think he does, I might be wrong there, but this guru, he's a remarkable man. The old people in the village, they say, when we were children, our grandparents said he looked the same when they were young. So we don't know how old this character is. You know, it looks like a couple of 100 years, you know, but he always looked the same with one eye, yeah? And he's an amazing teacher. It's an amazing teacher. He would get one of his disciples very near to the dhyanas, then get a poisonous snake and drop it into his lap, yeah? And then he goes, whee, fourth dhyana, you know? And he would do stunts like this, yeah? But he said, the ego can hide. I've got nothing against the ego. Egotism, I don't like, you know, greedy, you know, I'm more important than anybody. You know, no, ego is normal. You know, I have a sense of self, that's ego, great, no problem. But he says, but the ego, this egotism can hide in humility. It's down there going, oh, I'm not worth anything, no. But it's there, hiding, you know. And this guru said, no matter how high you go, and politicians would come and he'd insult them in front of everybody, rip them to pieces, you know, humiliate and so, you know. And when a saint came, he'd be down on the floor worshiping, you know. And he said, no matter how high you go, I can go higher. No matter how low you go, I can go lower. Yeah, but he's after that egotism, and he will show it up. And Banti says the last he saw of him, it was the disciples came round just to do 100,000 prostrations to Sangharakshita to say goodbye. You know, or something, they didn't do that. But it was lovely, yeah. So, but that's humility. It's interesting. Humble, dodgy word, yeah, lovely. So we go on. Contented. Well, that's great. Please, you know, don't, you know, you've got possessions. Be pleased with them. Yes. You know, sometimes the handle falls off your pot. Okay, go and get another one, yeah. But being greedy for possessions and things is a bit mad, you know, which that's too obvious. I needn't go on. Yeah, being contented with what you have. Easily supported. That's nice too. You're not fussy. I mean, there was a Tibetan Lama who died last year, and I read about him. What was it? Which paper was the Observer? And his disciples would have to bring a special huge television set for him on tour and all these comforts he had. You know, he lived like a Raja. He lived in royalty, you know. And it was just, that's not quite right. And the Dalai Lama was a bit annoyed with him in the end, though the Dalai Lama doesn't get it. But he said, not right. Yeah. So, but easily supported. Your desires are not too great. Yeah, they're not too, yeah, they're reasonable. And we do have reasonable desires, you know, we really do. And actually, easily supported. And some interesting thing here, here's a new one for you. This is a rare teaching from Sangharakshita, but you won't hear this one much. He said, there is reasonable and unreasonable dependence, and reasonable and unreasonable independence. So a baby is dependent on the parents. That is reasonable, absolutely reasonable. It's fair, yeah? You need a drink of water, reasonable, yeah? You're trying to get the whole universe out of your lover. They don't have it, yeah? It's not reasonable, yeah? You can see these mad desires, yeah? One example, and then there's unreasonable independence, and you get these old pension. I was in Essen, Hauptbahnhof, and this old guy he was 80, had this huge suitcase. I said, you know, can ich helfen? Warum? You know, he was furious with me because I offered to help. You know, it was an unreasonable independence. You know, yeah, and it's crazy. You know, and you get these poor old pensioners, you know, their house, all the old tin cans full of maggots and worms, and they won't have help, yeah? They will not be helped. You know, and then it is reasonable in your old age that people do look after you. You know, the second childhood comes, it's fair. And that is a challenge, it's a real challenge, you know? Yeah. When you're going around in a wheelchair, you know, yes. But it's reasonable. You know, this is being a human, has these phases of dependence and independence. Good. So that's nice. You don't hear that one much, you know. Good. With few duties was the next one. Yeah. So you're not too busy because bear in mind you've got to lead the spiritual life. If you're exhausted, you're not living the spiritual life. Not really. You can be exhausted from time to time, but if it's persistent, you're in trouble. You know, you've got to work out a way of not being exhausted. And one of Sangharakshita's ones, he used this word, the higher evolution, the lower evolution, you know. I can't go into that today, but you can guess it. You know, lower evolution, you know, dinosaurs, up we go, Homo sapiens. Ta-da! Higher evolution is voluntary, the spiritual life. Yeah, oh yes, I will evolve, you know, an individual affair. Yeah, that's it. I've just done a whole lecture for you. 3 sentences. Good. So, good. But he said, when you're tired, the lower evolution wins. So be careful. Try and stay fresh. I'm not a good example, you know, never mind, yeah? Just that. And, you know, I was a school teacher. A young school teacher. I remember coming through the front door, getting to the bedroom, falling on the bed, and I woke up about 8 o'clock. My coat was still on and my door keys were still in my hand. You know, that is tired. You know. So you've got to be a bit smart about the jobs you have, you know, and have a good think, yeah? Right, okay, I said enough there, really, yeah? You know, good, all right. And then it goes on of light livelihood. So that's the same point that I've just made. Your job is not killing you, yeah? You do need to be fresh for the spiritual life, yeah? It's interesting, I mean, in this coronavirus times, I will say nothing against the doctors and nurses, you know, killing themselves. I would do the same. Yeah, that's fantastic. But that's almost vocational work, you know. And I did find that sometimes in right livelihood, in our restaurant, you could work harder and harder, faster and faster. And some nights, the whole 80 seats would be filled. It was an amazing atmosphere. And you'd get resistances, and you'd go through, and you'd find this new higher level of existing, which was amazing. I remember Manjunatha, one of the other waiters, we ran past each other, you know, plates and everything. And we both stopped and turned around and went, yeah! And ran on, you know. So, you know, you can find levels of ecstasy. You don't have to be mindful, you know. Yeah, there are alternatives. Yeah? So there you go. With senses calmed. So, you know, you're watching your senses. You're being a bit careful, you know. What do you let in through the eye, the ear, you know? Yeah. Senses calmed. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm guilty. I'll say no more. But sometimes I do like a little bit of violence in my movies. I'm so sorry. But not too much. Yeah, there we go. Shouldn't have said that. Just ruined the talk. Discreet. Discreet. You know, be discreet. Lalitaratna is not discreet. One should be discreet. You know, not taking over the place. Yeah, say no more. All right. Not impudent. Not impudent. Be polite. And it's interesting. Sangharakshita, one of his regrets, he taught all his disciples to speak out, to be brave, you know, to challenge this, that, and the other. But he says later on, he wished he taught them respect of their elders. You know, we'd all got so, yeah, who do you think you are, you know? And really, he found this, that later on, there was less respect for him, yeah, and less respect for senior order members. And he wished he taught that more. Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
So I should have laughed before?
I don't know. You can. I was waiting for the laugh. Yeah. Nice sentence here. Not greedily attached to families. Well, if you have a family, of course you're attached. You know, you're attached to your parents. You know, massively attached to your children. Yeah. But you can be crazy. You know, you can do it too much, yes? Always talking, living your life through your children, coming to work, oh, my little, you know, what's it, Fonzo, whatever, has done this today, you know. He's done his first poop in his pot. Ooh, really? Everybody at the work needs to know that, you know. Just, you know, just be moderate, yeah? Enjoy your kids, have a good time. And I found it an interesting thing, this attachment to families. I mean, just bear in mind, the Buddha, after his enlightenment, his mother died when he was born, yeah? He pops up to this heaven to teach his mother the Dharma. The other mums didn't get it. His mum did, you know. What I'm not saying, you know. But, and Bhante used to look after, Sangha used to look after his mum, you know. And there's a curious thing in the all the monks, the bhikshus, you know, yeah? They've got this begging bowl. I quite love this. And they beg food and they're allowed to share it with the rest of the Sangha. And one other person, can you guess? Can you guess who can share the bhikkhu's food? One other person in the world. Mama, yes. A bhikkhu is allowed to feed his mum out of his begging bowl. Isn't that? No, not the dad. But the mum, yeah? Well, there we go. All right. So there we go. So being reasonable about families, not mad, yeah? They should not pursue the slightest thing for which the wise might censure them. So don't do anything that a wise man or wise woman would not approve of. Yeah? Now, I looked up the text and they didn't use the fancy sort of Pali, Sanskrit words. But I do know this one. In Pali, it's called ottappa. Yeah? It's fantastic. They're called what's not mentioned here is this other word, hri, shame, yeah? And hri and ottappa are your two protectors, your two companions on the spiritual path. And hri is shame, and it's listed as one of the positive mental events, yeah? And yeah, we were talking about letting things come through you, yeah? To me, these two things, you know, so I'm not saying enough about it. So a little bit first, hri is like shame. If you've done something wrong, you will feel it in a quieter moment. Ottappa is you're in the moment, yeah? You're just about to steal an avocado from Aldi, and you think, what would Lalitaratna do? And it's in your pocket in no time. No. But I told Eva the other day, I was so ashamed. I was going through the till at Aldi, yeah? And down by my feet was an avocado. That's why it's in my head. And I looked around, you know. I could have asked for it, but I took it, you know. And it was delicious. It was really, really, really delicious, you know. And then we have confessions in our chapter. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, good, I haven't got anything to confess this week. And avocado. So I told them about the avocado. That was it. And then the other day, I went into Aldi and I bought an avocado and I stuck it back in the shop. you know. So I've repaired it a bit, you know. Yeah. But really, you know, this ottapur should be fast. You could think, what would Sangharakshita do? Or what would one of my spiritual heroes do, you know, in a situation? Would they? And they go, no, they wouldn't. And you're gone. It's fast, yeah? But Hri, to me, is much slower. And you need to be sitting on your meditation cushion, and you're just about to meditate, and you think, oh God, I was harsh to so-and-so on the phone today. I can't even meditate. And it's happened to me. You have to get up, go to the phone, apologize, come back and carry on with your meditation. But Hri happens in private and in quiet, times of quiet, you know, up it comes. But ottapur happens immediately. It's fast. It's in Aldi, you know. So there we go. So I love that. And you shouldn't do anything the why. And it's not what the idiots think of you doing. You should do what the idiots don't want you to do. You know, that's great. You know, sorry. But you know, but it's the whys you're concerned about. People who you know better. These are the purpose you're concerned. So those were all the qualities. And I find it interesting. They're all really quite ordinary qualities, yeah? But if you could bunch all 15 together, you'd be amazing. And just a negative parallel, I remember listening to this program on psychopaths, and there's about 27 qualities that psychopaths have. And none of them are really that bad. You know, lack of empathy, you know, self-obsessed. Well, we all know people like that. They're not psychopaths. Yeah, but when you get about 20 of these qualities together, you're in the hospital, you know, you're dangerous, yeah. So, but they're all not too bad. But when you get a lot of them, so that was the negative thing. And this is the positive. If you could get many of these going, you're really on. Isn't that nothing beyond the imagination here? Yeah, it's reasonable. Good. So back to the text now. So the text says, may all beings be happy and secure. May their hearts be wholesome. So I'll go through fairly quickly now. So you're this meta. So now actually this is a practice really. I said the first was like a whole load of bus stops or railway stations or stages along the path, you know. But this is more like practice now. You're saying, I will, you know, I will be happy for people. May their heart. I will wish them well, and whatever living beings there be, whatever, the feeble or strong. Now, when you're in a cult and you say, is this a cult or is it just an amazing spiritual community? Don't look at the top. Don't look at the guru. You'll learn nothing. It could be a tyrant. It could be a very saintly man. Look at the bottom. Is there somebody who everybody is kicking? If there is, it's a cult. Nothing else. Just a cult, you know? That's the test. I believe, you know. So this thing about wishing well to the feeble, that could be a bit of a challenge, you know. They're so weak. I don't need to feel meta for them, you know. You know, you're doing it for everybody: the feeble, the strong, the tall, the stout, the medium, yeah, short, small, or large. Yeah. And I remember this professor in Southampton. He came in one day. He said, "I've been hating one of my students all year." Yeah. And he said, I was doing the metta, and I realized in the metta, she reminds me of somebody I hated in the past. And she was freed, and he could like her again. So simple. He was projecting onto this poor student, and then the projection ended, yeah? Just through the metta. So yeah, it's a development of kind wishes to everybody, every sort of, seen or unseen, yes, you know. Those dwelling far or near. Yes, do the metta for people around the planet. I put China in for years. It really helped me, you know, in the Metabolism. I always have China there, you know. And it changed me. Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Sorry. But yeah. Those who are born, those who are not to be, or who are to be born. So the poor old fetuses, may be well. All right? I'll play you a bit of Mozart in your room, yeah? Good. May all beings be happy. Let none deceive another, this is the next section, or despise. Don't hate anybody, yeah? And I remember a Sufi text that said, when you hate, he said, it's like setting fire to your own house. Even when the fire goes out, the house is a mess, yeah? So even after your anger has passed, you're all shaky, you know? So don't do this thing. Don't wish harm. And another mad theory of Lalitaratna's, I thought, why are witches in pictures so ugly? I'm not talking about white witches, but they're all sort of... And I thought, well, if they truly are doing black magic, it's the opposite of the Metabolism. And the Metabolism will make you beautiful. Yeah? Black magic will make you ugly. You know, what you wish on the others happens to you too. It's two ends of the same stick, you know. So kind wishes, nice. Hatred. Anyway, there we go. Lovely, isn't it? Yeah. So there we go. So be careful. Now, here comes the metaphor. Just as a mother would protect her only child at the risk of her own life, even so, let them cultivate a boundless heart towards all beings. This is giving you the strength of metta when it's fully developed. This is, for a normal mother, this is so powerful. Yeah? I've known of two mothers, I didn't know either personally, they got killed trying to save their kid. You know? It's that powerful. You know? This is the sort of forces we're talking about. And something a bit nicer. I was looking at, a lot nicer, I was looking at, it was on the news last year, a baby elephant sort of gets swept away in this river. And the mother was doing everything to try and save the baby, you know. And then all the rest of the elephants all piled in. And that's us, you know, all with this sort of maternal feel. And they pushed it, because you can't pick up an elephant with your trunk, you know, it seems, yeah. So they just pushed this poor thing up the bank and saved it. And it was just great, you know. So that's us, a bunch of elephants, yes, all pushing with goodwill. So we'll cultivate this boundless, with this incredible passion towards all beings, yeah. And you don't have to like people to do metta towards them. You know, you don't have to have an intimate relationship with people you do metta towards. You can wish them well. They may hate your guts. It's not your problem. You know, may you be well. May you be happy. May things go. And what have you gained? You have gained such freedom. You're not taking the problem home at night and in your bedroom going, you know, you just wish them well and you're free. You know, it's fantastic, isn't it? So let their thoughts of boundless love pervade the whole world, above, below, and across, without any obstruction, without any hatred, without any enmity. Whether they stand, walk, sit, or lie down, as long as they are awake, they should develop this mindfulness of metta. This, they say, is the noblest living here. Now, I've seen this before in Buddhism. They're meaning, you know, all the time. You know, whether they're standing, sitting, walking, whatever, let them develop this, yeah? I remember Sangha actually giving us order members a warning years ago. He said, an order member is still an order member in bed. So he did, that's all he said, you know, so show good manners, all right? Yeah. So, you know, but just all the time, yeah? So yeah. And another thing he said, there's no holiday in the spiritual life. Well, in a way, the spiritual life should become the holiday, you know, but you don't take time off. Oh, you know, this weekend I'm not going to be a Buddhist, you know? Yeah. No. That's not very good. Yeah. So good. I say no more then. Yeah, good. And he says, this is the noblest living here. Well, I think they're talking about the noblest living, because I found another text which talks about a place, yeah? And I think they're talking about the Brahma Viharas here. So you are now living in a heaven of your own creation. You know, Brahma Vihara, Vihara is a place, you know, where you practice Vihara. We all know how to Vihara in India. Brahma is you're living like Brahma, the greatest of the gods. So you are living in paradise. Yeah, that's with your metta. Yeah. And so the last line, not falling into wrong views. Be careful, don't fall into wrong views. And I think you can get it wrong, from what I've seen, quite late in the spiritual life, you know? Get a little bit stuck in arrogance somewhere. This is really nice. I'm a really good Buddhist. There's loads of bliss in my life. I must be wonderful. Yeah. So be careful. Be careful. Yeah, it doesn't go away. Yeah. And so don't fall into wrong. Being virtuous. Do good things. That's the test. Are you doing good things? Yeah. Not just sitting on your cushion. You know, are you actually out there? You know, helping old ladies across the street. Yeah. By discarding attachment to sense desires, so let go of all those pleasures. Yeah. Never again are they reborn. And that's the last line of the text. They will enter enlightenment. Now, to me, it's a great mystery, this whole thing about Buddhas not being reborn. I don't know. I really don't know. But it sounds dead good just before they disappear. So the Buddha said, what's it? Nirvana is the highest bliss. So it's all right. And they've gone beyond time. They've gone, you know, does a Buddha not exist after he's dead? Buddha said, you can't say. You wouldn't understand it anyway if I told you. Coffee is, yeah. Sorry. But yeah. So, but there we are. Oh, timing. 40 seconds left. Any questions or anything? Yes, go on, Amy. Fantastic.
Just thinking of the word delusion.
Yeah.
So this is all very well, right?
Yeah.
This, I read this,
yeah.
Intellectually understand it, concepts,
yeah.
tick. Oh yeah, doing that, spiritual maturity. Not at all. So what happens then when you think, but you're not, or you think someone else is, but they're not?
Well, the very good thing about all this is it's all in the course of time, yeah? So I know an order member who was going around Japan, this is about 40 years ago, and he knew he was enlightened. He'd done it. Yeah, this is Vajradhaka, you know. He's going around Japan enlightened. And then after some, I don't know how long, days, weeks of being enlightened, he realized he was bored. He thought, are enlightened people bored? Yeah. So with the passage of time, some realization came to him that he was not enlightened. Yeah. So you have the passage of time. You also have the Sangha. And the Sangha works on, it works in normal ways. It works in mysterious ways. Yeah. So while you were meditating up here, I did a short meditation downstairs. My goodness, I could feel it. You know, it was fantastic. When we meditate, you know, online, I don't bother with that. I just do the timing very often. I can feel you. And when you feel in accord with the Sangha, you're on the right path, you know? And when you feel a bit odd when you meet the Sangha, you can check it out. That's the thing about you're easily criticized, you're open to correction, yeah? That will help a lot. To have more sets of eyes watching you, it's a collective effort. We have to get away from a sort of an individualism and learn to trust others and hopefully meet nice people on the path too who will say things nicely to us. Yeah. So yeah. So these are checks. These are checks. Yeah.
And they come from outside too, the Sangha, I think.
Do you know what I like to say? A dog can tell you where you're at. A dog comes in and goes, woo, and he's gone. You think, what was that? He doesn't like you. You know, babies, yeah? They'll tell you where you're at, you know? Yeah. Yeah. It's a great one, thank you. Yeah. But it's, yeah, we're developing a community as well. We really are. Yeah. And it just works. And that's interesting. We don't live together, but it is a community. You know, this is, you know, here today, this Saturday, we're just developing the community, you know. Yeah. Makes it, I mean, friendship makes it all so much more easy. Yeah. I've got horrendous stories. This two fellas in a mental hospital during World War I, two poets, Siegfried Sassoon and Wilfred Owen. They both lost their minds through the trenches. And then they found friendship with each other and they regained their sanity. And poor old Wilfred Owen, this is not a nice sentence. He said, today, he wrote a letter back, today I fought like an angel. So he's there amongst machine gun fire, barbed wire, all the excrement, the stink, the blood, the mud, and he's in heaven. But the friendship repaired him. It's not a good example, but it just shows you how you can turn hell into a sort of heaven, yeah? Yeah? Sanger actually himself did wonder if it was karmic at all these poor young men in the trenches, if there was any karma involved at all, you know? Because they were ordered there. If they didn't go, they got white feathers posted to them by the villagers, you know, and they went. Amazing, isn't it? Yeah. But Sanger actually is very broad-minded. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're very well. I really enjoyed it, I must say.
We've got our announcements. Yeah, so I think some of us will be going for lunch after this, and you're more than welcome to join with that. So the bookings for next week.
I just did it just now.
Okay,
So
if you want to put
yeah,
it next week, it's